I'm recording. She sent the plan to everyone, and I talked to her yesterday to get briefed on it. And essentially, we're going to go with like the first beginning parts of the plan, and then build things out. So I have enough information to talk about the plan and then which the next steps be.
Okay, so you just want to walk through it, is that right?
Yes, at least the beginning portions. The end portion, she said, may be up for some adjustment as we get more parent feedback. So kind of a walkthrough. We'll decide when we get closer to or get to that topic on the agenda. So for public testimony, I know we had Miss Leah, who John Paul followed up, and I believe Emily is following up. There was a comment about the amount of testing going on school-wide, a pilot for flexible schedules for teachers, mental health supports for teachers and students, and I know Nikki D'Angelo had a list of things ranging from maintaining the budget information related to just the increases for how to stay on track for, I think, inflation for a budget, increasing the PCSBA building allowance, a new adequacy study, transparency related to federal and public investment, training and literacy, and fully funding mental health. Was there anything like from that we wanted to, or you thought of that we should be following up on or taking action on?
Well, I'm pretty sure that the things that we flagged for follow-up, the follow-up's already started. So yes, John Paul already followed up as far as the actual where we are as far as the protocols for notification. Emily said she was going to reach out. I believe the other item for follow-up was the you were going to follow up about the special ed, and I think I saw an email from you during the meeting. I'm not sure there's anything else that needs like a specific follow-up. The board, I'm guessing, will have some conversation around budget items, which would fall into what Nikki D'Angelo brought up. I can't remember if there's anything else that would have been left outstanding.
Cool. Yeah, I think budget is something that I think the board, it would be interesting to see like how we can rally behind that. I know the public comment period for Mendelssohn's, not necessarily in the lens of feedback, but or not necessarily the lens of support, but the lens of feedback for his bills. That window closed February 4th, but I would hope that we can still provide something related to like having the panel, and then, saying like, are there any sentiments the board has related to the budget? I'm not sure if there's something that like Outreach and Advocacy Committee should lead, or is that something you can take back for leadership to pursue? I know it's also a semi-carryover item from the previous administration with stuff about budget.
Most years, I know the board provides, and not just last year, and I don't anticipate it'll be different this year. The board provides a set of budget priorities. Mm-hmm. I anticipate that that's a board-wide discussion. Okay. I anticipate that much of that will probably happen via email, and people will contribute as needed. I don't think about it as attached to Mendelssohn's bills or particular legislation. I think about it more attached to the budget process that happens every year, and where we would like to see allocation of dollars. So I don't think of the public comment period closing for his bills as prohibitive to what we want to see.
Yes, but it's the end of February, and we're moving into March, and the budget hearing? The first budget hearing would be March something?
the first oversight hearing
Is March
is in
2nd.
March, and then the budget hearings happen actually in April. And so technically the budget is not with the council yet, but we can figure out.
Okay. So it sounds like something like
we
you can
want
take
to
back to
include.
leadership in relation to like, we're gonna do some tasks related to budget advocacy.
No, we've already decided that that's something, and I think Jessica articulated that at the meeting, that we will be reaching out about what that process looks like. And it'll be a full board decision.
Awesome. Okay, looking forward to next steps on that, because I know we've been talking about it for a little bit. In relation to, so I think outside of testimony, was there, okay, so then in regards to like outreach and advocacy for the year and the topics that, the themes that we're working on related to everything from graduate profiles to literacy to, I know it's happening in different committees, but where you see like the role of the outreach and advocacy committee being in moving forward the full board work.
Well, I think that's actually more a question for the committee, less so than, and so I actually think that's a conversation that would benefit from, if not all of us, most of us participating in. The work plan process is one where people kind of, you know, just like last year detailed their work, but it, you know, I am assuming that's a committee decision, and then we're looking for a committee recommendation.
I'll just follow up an email because I know we're missing several committee members today. Make sure Sky's not in the waiting room. She's not. So I'll just circle back via email to get feedback on, because that was a point of our regular meeting, of making sure that we, you know what we're advocating and doing outreach around. So cool. I'll just follow up with everyone and get more feedback on that. So then that takes us to our last item, which is the parent advisory committee, which Emily sent out the document earlier in the week, maybe Wednesday or Tuesday. But essentially, I touched base with her yesterday to prepare for this meeting, because I know she couldn't be here because of birthday plans. But it seems like what we'll do is she pulled data in relation to how to kind of make some appointments for parent advisory council, not really appointments, but allotting a certain number of parents for each ward based on the data, the chart that's in that document. But we're going to start with a broad ward, from ward to ward, doing like parent outreach starting between March and April. And then May we'll pull together parents to do a deeper dive into the parent engagement standards. From there, she has the rest of the list like laid out on like basically taking us on a timeline through, I think, December 2023. But she was saying like, you know, that's a timeline, but we're open to, when we hear, you know, as parents start engaging, especially from ward to ward, and then when we get the council kind of arranged, doing adjustments as we're flexible to, you know, what parents might want to, one, the timeline, and two, what parents might want to actually engage upon. So that was essentially that. I think is in a good place to kind of move forward with. We were just touch base with staff to start arranging the ward level engagements, and then go from there.
So I am looking to pull that up. I saw she sent it, but I didn't. I don't think I saw an agenda and knew we would be discussing today. I think I'm making an assumption that this will be part of the work plan conversation as a committee, because that's the point of that document. And so staff can look across and say, all right, like we can anticipate that in February will be happening, and assignments and support can be made.
Cool. So we'll then that would.
Sorry, no, I would say, unfortunately, the word family and parent both come up a bunch in my inbox, as you can imagine. So it's taking me a little bit longer to pull it back up. I'm curious about, I noticed that she had kind of laid out the different numbers of ward representatives based on, I think she said mostly income as an equity base. I would be curious what other board members think about that and how they think about equity in their respective wards. So like, I think she noted that Ward 1 had 3 reps, but Ward 5 had 2 reps. But I'm pretty sure like Ward 5 has way more kids than Ward 1 does. And Ward 5 has an overall lower socioeconomic status. And so I would be curious to kind of have that conversation, especially since revisiting the equity framework came up. I think it's something that we could benefit from thinking about. And maybe we land where this is, but I am curious like how people think about that.
I talked to her about it. She was kind of going back and forth because when she pulled data related to income, 5, I think because of so I told her to circle with Zach, but we can also talk as a committee. 5, actually the numbers were pulling a little higher, but then I was telling her about like just some of the makeup of what Ward 5 could be. So she's gonna circle, I think, with Zach to figure out like, do they do 3, do they do 2? Is, like you're saying, the socioeconomics the best indicator to pull for? But I think essentially we're just trying to make sure that there's representatives for wards based on like need, and to give more, I guess, opportunity for feedback for wards that are sometimes underrepresented but have a lot to contribute. So I'll follow with Emily about, but I know that was one that she did flag. She was kind of going, she's like, technically Ward, she said 1, 7, and 8, according to the chart that she pulled. The socioeconomics kind of fell in that, or the economics fell in within that, but she said 5 technically didn't, but she was like, she would, be willing to adjust based on feedback from others. So I'll circle back with her on that.
I would be surprised, despite the fact that like Ward 5's income has risen over time. I would actually be quite surprised if Ward 5's income overall was higher than Ward 1's. I wouldn't be surprised if there are certain gaps in parts of the population that might be more staggering in Ward 1 when you think about some of the immigrant populations. But when I think about parts of 5, like Carver Terrace as I know it, there are some very, quite frankly, poor, not to mention Black census tracts in neighborhoods that I know of in 5. And yeah, I mean, like when I think about a lot of the disparities that affect children and families, typically the rundown is 8, 7, 5.
Gotcha. Cool beans. So yeah, it sounds like probably an adjust up. So we'll just add, or I'll see what they say between her and Zach, but it sounds like it'll probably be an adjust up of 1 more parent for 5 if she gave them 2. So we'll add the parent engagement into the work plan, and then follow with Emily about her matrix for pulling parents, and then we'll circle with staff to see if we can, because this is something we started doing, so see if we can stick with like a timeline, but then add it to the work plan, and even just some circle with staff to see like, is March, April even feasible, but definitely add into the work plan.
No, I would just like that March and April are pretty heavy for especially parents and communities when it comes to budget. In particular, like that is, it is the most busy time. So I do worry about that as far as just accessibility for people. I think when I think through the question of the I guess the demographics and the equity, I think I was more so flagging it for not so much where we land, it's just the number of representatives, but because we have this ongoing conversation around equity. I know Representative Patterson flagged at the last meeting that he would like to put on the table revisiting the equity framework. And so I just would wonder, I think this is a good example of like, are we thinking about equity the same? And like, are there things we weight more than other things? And so I would just be curious, yeah, like what feedback is across the board, not just between those two representatives.
Gotcha.
There could be
Yeah,
some
and
opportunity for that.
yeah, and I mean, I also like to definitely about the construct of that parent council, but also for clarity for public purposes, the goal is ward level engagement for each ward. So, you know, there'll be opportunity to definitely touch base with or people to in their wards figure out like how to best pull out parents so that they can get you know, a pool of folks to get feedback from before we get into that specific very parent council. And then I know Representative O'Leary has said it multiple times of like making sure that we honor the parents who always show up, but then also, you know, pulling parents who, like I'm thinking about Miss Blue, who came to testify. Like that's a, you know, a newer face, but definitely engaged. Like, how do we pull in just more folks of who touch base with us, but we might not have, you know, followed up on, like, versus the same folks that we always tend to pull, which is cool. And glad that they're available and make themselves available, but trying to like diversify voices. So it's kind of like a dual get into the wards and then get into that council work.
Yeah, all of that makes sense and sounds you know, it sounds similar to what we've been talking about. And so I'm happy to see the proposal starting to, you know, get off the ground to a place where we can implement it. I think I'm more so just thinking about like as a board, when we think about equity, are we saying the same things? Do we mean the same things? Not necessarily in response to do we do this or not, or do we like the word level engagement? I don't know if we spend enough time vetting what equity means for us as a shared value. I think we a lot of times just trot it out because we all think we mean the same thing and we're super well intentioned. And so this could be a good place to say like, hey, do we mean the same thing when we say equity? Because a lot of times I think we default to racial equity, but now we're adding this lens of income, which I think was a really good flag. So
and this is also a good flag too of Representative Gazoy, and that's something I could possibly help with, or somebody else on the committee to add to her work plan, or not work plan, but what she laid out in equity statement. I don't think that's in there. So that's a good flag. Okay.
Are we
cool.
And so for the committee, what do you think it looks like for, since people, you know, people couldn't come to this meeting? I get it, like it's enough going on. But what does feedback look like for the committee?
Yeah, so definitely I'll probably send the link to the recording to everyone and then follow up with getting people to give feedback related to the work plan, because we have to build that out. In regards to committee work, circling back with Representative Gazoy related to the equity statement to add to the not work plan, family engagement initiative. Also to take a look at, you know, do we have those, are we recruiting people appropriately to fit into our equity framework? And what else? Probably just a marker of like, we'll look forward to whatever from the board related to budget to chime in on that.
Do you think it would be helpful? So like I'm sorry, and I'm thinking out loud, two things separate, but end in the same place. So one, I am making an assumption that we probably should have some conversations with the student advisory committee about budget and what their priorities are, just like we would do with a resolution or anything else. For the family, I don't know what we're calling it, but for the parent family, I try to default to the word family because not everybody's a parent. But for the committee, is there outside of Sky, is there a place for them to chime in, or should it be? And maybe it doesn't need to be. But one of the things we started to do last year was take things to the Student Advisory Committee. I'm not quite sure we've had an opportunity for something like this, or if we have a shared expectation for something like this going to them. You know what I mean?
You know how we did?
To.
How do we do it for fall engagement? You remember how we engage? And I'm just asking because I don't remember. How do we engage student advisory? Maybe we'll ask them, how do we, if we engage them? Because I would imagine it'll be something similar, but I don't remember how we did it. We might not have.
Right. That's why I'm gotcha. Like, okay, I'm processing and going, oh, okay, this made sense. We agreed to some things. Maybe you need to think of all the things because that's how it works. But I don't know, and I don't remember either. I know we at least told them about it and said like, hey, let us know if you want to participate, and like encourage them to be part of that process. But I don't. I think honestly, those things came out of the work plans, but I don't think the Student Advisory Committee was involved in the work, like in the overview of the work plan for all the committees. Does that make sense? I mean, I feel like I don't have the right.
No, you're fine. I got you. It makes sense because I think it took us probably to like the middle of the year to like really start engaging the Student Advisory Committee like the way we were supposed to.
Right.
I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if it's because we were trying to find all the reps or we were trying to, get our. But I think it's a good reminder now. And then we can, even with Skyly being on this committee, like, and maybe she can provide feedback via email. Like, does she feel like, is this something we should, I mean, of course not. We want to come, but like, Scott, do you feel like you can provide enough feedback, or is this something like we want to send from the whole student advisory? And then I'm also wondering, like, then I'm hoping other committees are going to do the same thing. So should it be like an all call for board members or committee members to go to the student advisory group just to kind of like kick?
When you say the same thing, say more. Say what you mean. I want to make sure I understand.
Oh, like, should it almost be like since we're like, this is February, like the beginning of the year, still kind of, we're getting there, but like almost like an all call for board members to go to the Student Advisory Committee meeting, just to get them up to speed on like, here are all the initiatives, here's the work plan, feedback before we solidify those. I don't know if we've ever done that. Like, we go to them and say like, what are your questions? What do you want to be pulled into? What do you want to just advise us on? What do you want to lead? And we take we follow your lead. I don't know if we've ever done like an all call and say, hey, board members, like, you need to come to this, I guess they meet on Monday, like Monday meeting to sit before the advisory board.
I can tell you, what I can tell you is Representative Sutter and I reached out to the student reps directly following the retreat to share everything that we shared in the retreat, saying like, all right, here's a flag for like, here's some of the work we want to do. We had the conversation about committees. That's how we got to a point where they could say, here's the committees we want to be on in the work we want to be included in as student reps. We have not taken that to the full committee. I do wonder, I do wonder like, what level of detail the conversation makes sense, and like what the expectation is for like student advisory committee members is versus student reps. Because even like with the adding students to committees and having them be able to vote, which I think was a good thing, that is a shift in expectation for the amount of work they have to do and just like their own schedules and everything else. So I think it's a good flag. I think at the very least, we should absolutely be sharing with them, like, and they should know, like, here's what we see as the priorities of the board, and like, here's how our structures work, and like, here are opportunities for you to plug in. I am curious, like, what they would say about just like where they see themselves as having capacity to do different things or making commitments to certain projects. Because just like we all do as adults, we all got to make
wondering
about our time.
So for that, are you going to circle back with them to see, or how should we follow up on this idea?
I'm not quite sure yet. I think part of it is, I'm not quite sure yet. I think I will flag it I think I will flag it as a suggestion. I think it's actually something I would actually like thoughts from the other members around too, as far as like what, and maybe we will start to see this as people have conversations about their work. My guess is, and I could be wrong, but that's what makes it a guess. But my guess is that most people will go like, yeah, we should totally be sharing the priorities and flagging opportunities for the students to be engaged in work. I do wonder, to your point about like, is it everybody goes to a meeting? Are we like, what do the like the nitty gritty of the opportunities look like? Those types of things. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but
Okay.
yeah.
So right now it's gonna be a flag, and we'll just kind of follow. I think, and then we'll build out our work plan with Sky, Ali,
Yeah.
and then
I would also
hopefully
be,
as we get closer.
yeah, I would also be curious, like once the student reps start to have their first meetings, what their thoughts are as far as how it's going, just like interacting as a student representative, and if what we set up is work for them. So I know that's still not a concrete answer, but those are the things that are happening in my head. And
Do you
I
know
think
their
some
next
good
meeting?
questions.
Have they met already for the month? They meet monthly?
They meet monthly too.
Okay.
I thought it was always the second Monday, but don't get me to line because I don't know what I'm doing on a
I
daily
remember
basis.
Monday. Yeah, no,
I
it's too many
literally look at my
calendars.
calendar and then that's how I know. Mm-hmm.
Or notifications saved my life. Like, oh, I'm supposed to be there in 15 minutes. All right. Cool. So it sounds like we'll start building out the work plan with all the members. Wait for the student advisory committee will be flagged, or student reps will be flagged, but engaging them in the meantime, and just like what the work things are.
Yeah, I think that's a question for our work plan process. Like it should be built into our work plan process. Exactly what it looks like.
Cool. All right. That's really all I have. I'll be sure to follow up, put this all in email before I start my weekend while it's fresh. Or I'm gonna try to. And then yeah, if you see anything that I left out or if I misinterpreted, just chime in, and then it seems like it's gonna be more of a technological working session. But I think we are moving along. It'll be interesting to see how we can yeah, definitely. Oh, and then getting the equity piece, the framework, looking at that and exploring how do we make sure we're not missing anything for the family engagement initiative. So to be continued. Thank you for tuning in.
No worries,
And
thank
thanks
you.
for the 2 people from the public that tuned in too. See y'all. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.